They say love conquers all. I believed that, until the night I found out it didn't conquer pride. The day Enoch got down on one knee, the whole world stood still for me. Not because it was a diamond ring, or because he whispered poetic promises. It was the way he looked at me, like I was enough. Like I always would be. That kind of love, it made me forget where I came from. It made me believe I could belong in his world. But his parents didn't agree. This is a story how my nightmares came knocking at my door. Hi and welcome back to Hearts Awakened. If you're new here, kindly subscribe and hit on notifications, and for my returning subscribers, thank you for stopping by. We shall begin now. 3 years. That's how long Enoch and I had been together. We met at a conference in New York. I was working the registration desk, he was one of the keynote speakers. It started with small talk and coffee, then lunches that turned into dinners. Enoch was different. Kind. Gentle. Fiercely intelligent. He never once made me feel less because I didn't come from money. In fact, he seemed fascinated by my upbringing, how I made it through school working nights and weekends, how I shared a one-bedroom apartment with my younger brother and mother for years. Enoch came from a world of polished dinner parties and generational wealth. His parents owned a real estate empire and sat on the boards of 5 major corporations. They were used to things going their way, especially when it came to their only son. The first time I met them, I wore my best dress. It was second-hand, but I'd fixed the hem and ironed it till it looked new. I even borrowed my friend's heels, which were a size too tight. I smiled through the pain. I wanted to make a good impression. It didn't work. His mother's eyes scanned me like a report with too many red marks. His father didn't say much, just nodded and looked out the window like I wasn't even there. She's polite, his mother told Enoch afterward, when they thought I couldn't hear. But she's not for us. That line echoed in my head for weeks. Still, Enoch stayed. He said their opinions didn't matter. He said love was enough. We tried. Lord knows we tried. He brought me to every event, every dinner. I held my head high even when the stares burned through me. His mother once handed me a pamphlet for a charm school. His father suggested I look into some secretarial work because it's good to have something to fall back on. I wanted to walk away. Not because I didn't love Enoch, but because I didn't want to come between him and his family. But every time I tried, he pulled me back in with that same look, the one that made me feel chosen. So we made a choice. We stopped waiting for their blessing. We started planning our own future. When Enoch asked me to marry him, he didn't go down on one knee this time. He just held my hands, trembling, and said, "Let's do it. With or without them." We decided to leave New York. Start fresh. Quietly. We packed our lives into 2 suitcases and flew to Australia. His cousin owned a vineyard out there and offered us a place to stay. We planned a small ceremony by the coast. No fanfare. Just love. For a few days, it felt like a dream. But the dream shattered fast. One morning, just 2 weeks before our wedding, I got a frantic call from my younger brother in Queens. They took them, he said, crying. They took Mom and Dad. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Some men came. Said there were charges, fraud or something. But it doesn't make sense. They didn't do anything. I knew who was behind it. There was only one family powerful enough to pull strings like that. Enoch's parents. When I told him, Enoch went pale. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just picked up the phone. I don't know what he said or who he called, but within 24 hours, my parents were released and the charges disappeared like smoke. That was the day I saw just how far Enoch would go for me. But it also showed how far his parents would go to keep us apart. The fairy tale had turned into a war. And I was tired of fighting. That night, I sat by the ocean, staring into the waves, wondering if love was worth all this pain. I felt like an intruder in Enoch's life, a weed in his mother's garden, something to be pulled and tossed aside. But then he came and sat beside me. He didn't say anything. He just wrapped his arms around me. "I'm not giving up," he whispered. "Not on you. Not on us. Maybe love wasn't enough for the world. But it was enough for us. And we were ready to fight." The day we boarded that plane to Australia, it felt like freedom. I remember gripping Enoch's hand as we walked through JFK Airport, our bags slung over our shoulders, our future uncertain but ours. I kept thinking, this is it. No more insults. No more cold stares. No more feeling like I had to apologize for being born poor. We were leaving all of that behind. Or so we thought. The vineyard where we stayed belonged to Enoch's cousin, Philip. He was kind and quiet, the black sheep of their family, the only one who'd stood up for us. His land stretched for miles, green and open, with rows of vines soaking in the sun. The air felt lighter there. For the first time in months, I could breathe. We set the wedding date for 2 weeks later. Just a small ceremony, sunset on the hill behind the house, my dress simple but beautiful, barefoot on the grass. No crowds. No drama. Just us and a handful of people who actually loved us. Those 2 weeks felt like stolen time. I helped in the kitchen, learned how to prune grapevines, and watched Enoch's shoulders slowly relax. We laughed again. We danced in the evenings with music playing from an old speaker and drank wine we couldn't name. It was quiet joy, the kind that heals you slowly, like sun on cold skin. But peace never lasts when you're running from people with power. The call came early one morning. My brother again. I knew from his voice that something was wrong. "They've arrested Mom and Dad." My heart froze. What? Some detectives came. Said they were investigating fraud, money laundering. They took them away in handcuffs, Rita. In front of the neighbors. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. I stood still for a long time, feeling the old pain rise again. Shame. Fear. Helplessness. Enoch walked in and saw my face. "What happened?" he asked. I told him. He didn't blink. He just picked up the phone and started dialing. Within hours, it was all moving like a storm. Enoch called lawyers, then journalists. He had friends in high places, people who owed him favors, people who didn't like how his parents played with power. The story started to unravel. The charges against my parents were paper-thin, based on false documents and anonymous tips. By nightfall, my parents were released. The police said it had all been a misunderstanding. But we knew better. They'd done it. Enoch's parents. They wanted to punish me. To scare us. To make us feel small. Enoch was livid. I'd never seen him like that before, quiet, cold, sharp. He didn't shout. He made calls. He pulled out papers. And then he sent one final message to his father: "You've made your choice. Now watch me make mine." After that, we knew there was no going back. Still, we didn't cancel the wedding. Instead, we moved it up. 3 days later, I stood on that hill in a white dress stitched by a neighbor down the road, with eucalyptus leaves in my hair and bare feet on the grass. Enoch stood in front of me in a linen shirt, eyes shining. We said our vows as the sun dipped low. Just a few people there, Philip, some vineyard workers, a kind local pastor, and a few of our friends who had flown in quietly. It wasn't grand. It wasn't elegant. But it was real. And it was ours. I thought that would be the end of the battle. I thought that once we were married, they'd leave us alone. I was wrong. Enoch's parents doubled down. They froze his accounts. Spread rumors about me online. They tried to cut him off from every business deal, every family connection. I watched the man I loved lose everything he had built with them, simply because he refused to let go of me. But he didn't flinch. "We'll start over," he said, over and over. "We'll build our own life." And we did. Slowly. Philip gave us a cottage near the vineyard. I took up gardening and helped with the tours. Enoch started a small consulting company online. Word spread fast, he was good at what he did, and soon clients came back. One by one. There were nights when I cried in the dark, when the weight of it all crushed me, what they did to my parents, what they tried to take from us. I asked him once, was I worth all this? He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're worth everything." And still, they didn't stop. His parents kept sending letters. Demands. Warnings. Until one day, everything changed. It was a headline. Power couple's feud goes public, parents disown son over poor bride. The press got wind of the story, how Enoch had been pushed out of the family, how my parents had been falsely accused. Journalists dug into the details. Public opinion turned. People weren't just talking about Enoch anymore, they were talking about me. About injustice. About the arrogance of wealth and the strength of love. Suddenly, their silence wasn't power anymore. It was guilt. A week later, we got a call. His mother. Her voice was tired. Older. We've made mistakes, she said. We didn't realize how far this would go. We did, Enoch replied coldly. We knew exactly how far it would go. You just didn't care. We want to make peace, she said. He looked at me. I didn't answer. Not yet. It's funny how people only seek peace when pride stops working. After everything they'd done, after the lies, the arrests, the public humiliation, they called us. Not because they'd suddenly grown a conscience. But because the world was watching now. Because the story had turned against them. Because the son they tried to control had become the one voice they couldn't silence. We want to make peace. That's what Enoch's mother said on the phone. Her voice, once sharp and commanding, now sounded small. Almost broken. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to hang up. Another part wanted to scream, to ask her if she remembered what it felt like to be dragged from your home in handcuffs for something you didn't do. To be mocked, humiliated, erased. But I said nothing. I let Enoch speak. We'll meet, he told them. On our terms. No photographers. No press. No games. They agreed. A week later, we flew back to New York. It was our first time returning since we'd escaped. I stepped off the plane wearing the same coat I'd left in. Different girl inside it now. I was no longer the trembling girlfriend trying to fit into their world. I was Rita. Enoch's wife. A woman who had walked through fire and stayed standing. We met them at their estate, the grand mansion where I'd once tried to impress them. This time, I didn't bother to pretend. They greeted us at the door, stiff and quiet. His mother looked like she hadn't slept in days. His father, once the man who barely acknowledged me, looked straight into my eyes and said something I never thought I'd hear. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Not right away. We sat in their overly formal living room, surrounded by furniture that probably cost more than our entire wedding. They tried to talk small, about the weather in Australia, about how Philip was doing. Enoch wasn't having it. Why are we really here? He asked. His mother swallowed hard. We lost you, she said. And in trying to keep you, we did worse. She turned to me. Rita, we judged you. We looked at your background, your clothes, your family, and we decided you weren't enough. But it wasn't about you. It was about us. Our fear. Our image. Our pride. She took a deep breath. But you loved him. And you stayed. Even when we tried everything to push you away. I was quiet for a long time. Then I asked the only question that mattered to me. Do you regret what you did to my parents? His father nodded. Yes. Deeply. That shook me. Not because I needed their guilt, but because for the first time it felt like truth. We talked for hours. They didn't ask us to move back. They didn't ask us to forgive. They just asked to be part of our lives again. Slowly. On our terms. When we left that day, my heart was heavy, but not broken. I didn't forgive them right away. Forgiveness doesn't work like a light switch. It's more like a sunrise, slow, hesitant, but warm when it finally comes. Back in Australia, life moved on. Enoch's business flourished. I started writing. A blog at first, then essays, then a book. Our story touched people. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. His parents visited once, a year later. They came quietly. No announcements. Just two older people trying to rebuild what they had burned. They walked through the vineyard with us, watched the sun set over the hills where we got married. His mother cried. She hugged me. I didn't pull away. I didn't forget, but I didn't carry hate anymore either. You see, when you've been hurt like that, you get to choose who you become. Bitter or better. Angry or stronger. I chose to grow. Not for them. For me. For the girl who once wore borrowed heels to impress a family that thought she was nothing. I think about that girl sometimes. If I could talk to her now, I'd say, you are enough. Not because of where you came from, but because of who you are. You don't need anyone's approval to be loved. You just need the courage to keep going. And love? Love is more than feelings and flowers. It's choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Enoch chose me. And I chose him. Not even pride could stop that. This indeed was a tough one. This story is designed for everyone. I hope you learned something new today. Subscribe and hit on notifications. Ensure to stop by on my next story.